The wealthy and the powerful are able to game the system and ensure that their children have advantages that most Americans' children do not have.
It is Wednesday, March 13th. Fame, fortune, and felony fraud charges. Actresses Felicity Huff and Lori Loughlin swept up in a massive college admissions scandal.
And it appears they can't buy their way out of this one.
The felony charges they're now facing. Plus, Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes are still flying in the U.S. despite being banned from most international airspace.
How the FAA is now defending that decision.
Look at this. Never gonna work, is it?
And Mitt Romney gets roasted on his birthday.
So weird. The viral gift that keeps on giving this morning. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Rob.
Okay, Rob had a little food in the last hour, and now he's a little feisty.
I got a little attitude.
I'm Jillian Mealy. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. Let's start with this. The mastermind behind the nationwide college admissions scandal pleads guilty to accepting millions in bribes from parents trying to get their kids into elite schools.
Big story. Two high-profile parents in hot water this morning. Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin.
Todd Pyro joins us with the very latest developments. Boy, this is a big story, Todd.
Operation Varsity Blues, guys, is all anyone's talking about. Big-time schools targeted. Georgetown, Yale, Stanford, University of Texas, USC, UCLA, just to name a few. The FBI describing it as a sham that strikes at the core of the college admissions process. The biggest name so far, actress Felicity Huffman of Desperate Housewives fame. Prosecutors allege Huffman met with a confidential witness who said he could control an SAT testing center and arrange for someone to proctor her daughter's test and correct it. Let's not forget about actress Lori Loughlin. Check out this clip talking about her daughter going to college.
I think I'm in complete denial.
Yeah?
I really am, because when I think about it too much, it will make me cry.
Really?
So I got to stop.
That's unfortunate. The Full House star and her husband, fashion designer Massimo Giannulli, accused of paying $500,000 in bribes for their daughters to be crew recruits at USC. Here's the problem. They'd never rowed before. A total of 50 people, including 9 coaches and 1 high-ranking athletics administrator, indicted, and the man at the center, William Singer, pleading guilty in federal court, charged with taking $25 million, using some of that to bribe coaches and those testing officials, and pocketing the rest.
Make no mistake, this is not a case where parents were acting in the best interests of their children. This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system so they could set their children up for success with the best education money could buy, literally.
Now, Huffman appeared in federal court in L.A. Tuesday, was released on $250,000 bond. Loughlin expected to turn herself in today. Now, the Fed's saying the investigation continues. More people could be charged. Jillian?
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Todd. See what else happens from that today. Also today, Paul Manafort is set to be sentenced in D.C. in his second criminal case. President Trump's former campaign chairman is facing up to a decade behind bars on conspiracy charges. He pleaded guilty last year as part of a deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Prosecutors later said Manafort breached that deal by lying to investigators. Last week, Manafort was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for tax and bank fraud. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page says the Justice Department told agents not to charge Hillary Clinton. In newly released transcripts from her closed-door testimony, Page said the agency, including James Comey, thought Clinton might have committed gross negligence. But she said, quote, the Justice Department's assessment was that it was both constitutionally vague. They did not actually feel that they could permissibly bring that charge. The Attorney General at the time, Loretta Lynch, previously said she would accept the FBI's recommendation.
All right, now to a Fox News alert. A Georgia woman is charged, accused with supporting ISIS by helping to spread kill lists targeting U.S. soldiers and members of the State Department. The Justice Department says Kim On-Vo recruited extremists and encouraged them to kill thousands of Americans. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. The U.S. and the Taliban drafting a deal following 2 weeks of talks. President Trump's top envoy in Afghanistan confirming the U.S. and the terror group have reached an agreement on counterterrorism and troop withdrawal. Negotiations for a ceasefire and talks with the Afghan government are still in the works. President Trump has vowed to start withdrawing the 14,000 U.S. troops from this now 18-year-long war.
Well, this is a big story. Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes are still flying in the U.S. despite bans from more than 30 airlines worldwide.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with the fallout from that deadly crash that killed 157 people over the weekend. Tracy.
Yes, good morning. Boeing says it has full confidence in the safety of the 737 MAX 8, the Ethiopian Airlines jet that crashed over the weekend, as you said, killing all 157 passengers on board. However, there is a growing list of countries not allowing these planes to fly in their airspace. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency announced yesterday that it was suspending all Boeing 737 MAX 8 flights in Europe as a, quote, precautionary measure. The EU joins China, Australia, and several other countries deciding to ground these Boeing jets. The United States has yet to do so. The FAA says, quote, our review shows no systematic performance issues and provides no basis to order grounding the aircraft. An aviation expert joined the show earlier and says the FAA is making the right call.
One of the things these people are missing is that in the United States and in Ethiopia, there's one big difference. The airlines themselves, our airlines are safer. I think the US FAA right now is doing the right thing despite world opinion.
An increasing number of U.S. lawmakers are calling for federal regulators to suspend use of the plane in the U.S. Several flight attendants and pilots' unions are requesting further investigation into the safety of the jetliner as well. An Ethiopian Airlines spokesperson has just announced that the black box recovered from the crash plane will be sent overseas for analysis. No decision has been made as to where. Looking at shares of Boeing ended down yesterday more than 6%, 11% total since the accident, which is the biggest two-day drop since 2009. Right now in the pre-market, shares are trading 1% lower.
All right. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, the quality of pilots is different. The training is different. There's a lot of things to this.
How many hours they've logged.
Right.
You have to look at everything.
It's not just about the plane. All right, Tracy, thanks so much. New York City's mayor, Bill de Blasio, fueling more speculation that he will run for president in 2020. The mayor heading to New Hampshire this weekend. The trip comes weeks after he visited Iowa, the first caucus state. If Bill de Blasio decides to join this already crowded field of Democratic candidates, it'll be quite the uphill battle for him. A new poll by the Des Moines Register shows that voters have virtually zero interest in him as the president. That's not a good number.
Well, Joe Biden certainly sounds like he's running for president.
I appreciate the energy you showed when I got up here. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks.
The former vice president speaking at a firefighters conference in Washington, wasting no time going after President Trump, suggesting he's responsible for a shift in the country.
The extremism is on the rise in this country. Mean pettiness has overtaken our politics.
Biden has reportedly told some people he is running, so stay tuned for official confirmation.
Yeah, he's getting more attention just speculating than anything else. Social media lighting up over the way that Senator Mitt Romney blows out candles on his Twinkie birthday cake. Watch this.
Look at this. It's never going to work, is it?
Well, by the time you get to the end, it's going to be melted. People split on the bizarre technique on Twitter. Tony saying, quote, do you also eat Twinkies with a knife and fork? Catherine writing, a lot of people making fun of Mitt Romney for blowing out his candles this way, but everyone should do this during flu season.
It's just weird. I don't know.
Okay. Well, It is 10 minutes after the hour. A bribery plot like something out of Hollywood, but this is real life for families now facing felony charges in a college cheating scandal. Our next guest says there is shame all around. She's calling out parents and kids for their everyone deserves a trophy mentality.
And imagine if flying was as cheap as driving. There's a company trying to make that a reality. Very bold. Stay tuned.
Television actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin now facing charges in what prosecutors are calling the largest college cheating scam ever prosecuted by the DOJ.
The stars are among dozens being accused of allegedly bribing elite colleges or people connected to elite colleges to admit their children. So is the entitlement mentality to blame for this? This has stirred up a lot of anger. Joining us now to discuss is director of the correspondent program at campusreform.org, Emma Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. This has a lot of people very angry. I mean, this is a captivating story. What do you make of it?
Well, I can think of nothing more embarrassing than having my parents interfere in the college process and pay someone to take a test for me so I could get into school. That's humiliating, but also it's really unfortunate for these young adults who are going to be in college or who are already in college now because they weren't even prepared to get into school in the first place. I can only imagine how unprepared they will be for the real world where paying to get what you want doesn't really work. And this is also such an insult to all of the really hardworking students that I work with at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform. These kids have worked hard to get into good schools and get their degrees. So it's really unfortunate that those students' work is being discredited by being able to pay to get what you want.
Well, yeah, and we all know that there are only a certain number of slots, and there are students who missed out on the opportunity to go to this school as a result. Let's take a listen to Olivia Jade, who is Lori Loughlin's youngest daughter.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I do want the experience of like game days, partying. I don't really care about school.
I don't really care about school, says the girl who has 2 million plus YouTube followers, however many on Instagram. What do you think the school should do about this? Because that's a tough spot. We're talking about people who go to school there currently.
Well, we're still getting more and more information about this case, and from my understanding, a lot of the schools had no idea this was going on, obviously apart from a few bad actors. But really what we have to do is hold schools accountable, which it seems like law enforcement is doing. This seems to really stem from this mentality in our culture right now that going to a college or a good college is your one-way ticket to success, whether it's a good job or a certain income. But as we know, we don't get to just waltz into a good job without working for it and proving our merits. And students like Olivia Jade who say, well, I just want to party and have game days, it's unfortunate that she thinks that just going to a good school is going to be her one-way ticket. It's going to be a rude awakening if she really thinks she can just party her way into a great job.
Some people work so hard to try and get into
rude
these
awakening.
schools.
Yeah, I mean, going back to her, what she said, I mean, there are kids out there that kill themselves for an opportunity to go to USC or to go to Yale, and to hear her just write it off, it really shows you the entitlement, and that's just sad to see. Let's see the statement here from the NCAA. The charges brought forth today are troubling and should be a concern for all of higher education. We're looking into these allegations to determine the extent of which NCAA rules may have been violated. So that's their side of it. We should say that, you know, the colleges here, it appears for the most part, are victims of this as well. You know, they had these slimy people that were working in their institution figuring out how to angle this, but they didn't know.
Yeah, and you know, I hope that the universities are able to fix this problem because clearly this is something that's going on, but I'm glad that there's been good reporting on this issue. There's been a lot of coverage. It's always important to shine a light and hold people accountable for these things because this is fraudulent and this is not necessarily representative of people who work hard to get into a good school and all of the students who really bust themselves to get into a good college. And it's important that we recognize those students that work hard and maybe have missed opportunities because of this and hold those accountable who are committing fraud, which is what this is.
Yeah, students who work hard to try and get into schools and then pay for it themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is a rude awakening for a lot of these people that have had it pretty good so far. All right, thank you so much, Emma. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. 17 minutes after the hour now. AOC trying to drill the CEO of Wells Fargo about an oil spill.
And the Keystone XL in particular had one leak that leaked 210,000 gallons across South Dakota.
There were some errors and some issues here. We're going to talk about that coming up.
And they say hard work pays off, but apparently not for all millennials. Why they can't even last 90 days at work. We'll explain. Good morning to you. Welcome back. The battle over President Trump's national emergency declaration coming to a head on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, as a vote to end the national emergency is scheduled tomorrow in Senate, Democrats are demanding answers on how the president's plan to pay for a wall affects the military. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the very latest on this. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Jillian. Yeah, Democrats, led by Minority Whip Dick Durbin, are demanding the Defense Department provide a list of the military projects it intends to defund to pay for the wall.
We think the Pentagon has to come clean with the winners and losers in this process. We estimate that the Pentagon will be forced to delay 20%, 1 out of 5, of the military construction projects in order to generate the $3.6 billion the president is asking for.
But Armed Services Committee Chairman Jim Inhofe appeared more confident they'll find a way.
There's a gray area where some money could be used and then replenished before the construction would begin. That'd be fine with me if it works out that way.
Meanwhile, Vice President Pence took to the Hill with GOP senators looking for a way to avoid rebuking the president. Most are for a wall, but enough of them are still against a declaration to ensure Democratic passage of the resolution. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had this to say.
There's a lot of discomfort with the law. Not that the president doesn't have the authority to do what he is doing, but rather is this grant of authority to any president, not just this one, any president. Was it too broad?
One proposed way out, a plan being floated by Senator Mike Lee that would limit the president's national emergency power, saying it was Congress's fault for giving it away in the first place in 1976. Lee writes, quote, if we don't want our president acting like a king, we need to start taking back the legislative powers that allow him to do so. But, guys, there's no indication that support for this bill would change the outcome of tomorrow's vote, expected to block the declaration. And that means we may see President Trump's veto pen for the first time.
Rob, all right. Jen? Griff Jenkins live in Washington. Thank you.
Okay, a bit of a gaffe for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez during a congressional hearing.
And the Keystone XL in particular had one leak that leaked 210,000 gallons across South Dakota.
So you hear there, she says Keystone XL. Well, the Keystone XL pipeline has not even been built yet. The New York Democrat making the gaffe while pressing banking officials over a 2017 oil spill. Now, there was an oil spill in South Dakota in 2017, but it was the Keystone pipeline, not the Keystone XL. So they're different projects. Also, court is asking why Wells Fargo, which simply funded that project, didn't volunteer to pay for the cleanup after the spill.
Okay, so how about this? A Georgia lawmaker wants to ban vasectomies. Democrat Darshan Kendrick is proposing a testicular bill of rights to counter Georgia's newly passed heartbeat bill that bans abortion once a heartbeat is detected. Kendrick says she wants to show how ridiculous it is for the government to control what people do with their bodies.
Maybe a little different. All right, you may soon be able to fly like a rock star on a budget.
On that couch right now.
A flight-hailing startup has just raised flight-hailing. Think about that, like hailing a cab. Just raised $10 million in hopes of making flying just as affordable as driving.
The app called Blackbird works by linking users with private planes and commercial pilots. The company says passengers can fly to destinations between 50 and 500 miles away and offers several price options, including a carpool one.
Yeah, it's already gotten a lot cheaper to fly private. They've got apps already that have really
got apps for everything.
I still can't afford it.
25 minutes after the hour. Illinois may be a safe place for illegal immigrants, but it's not for law-abiding gun owners. Alderman Anthony Napolitano says the city's elected leaders need a reality check. He joins us live.
And just when you thought you've heard everything.
You are returning back to the gate?
Good luck, man. One passenger, she left her baby in the terminal.
Whoa. You heard it right. A mom on a plane managed to leave her baby at the terminal.
How did that happen?
We're going to tell you.
Or look at our top headlines for you this morning. Actress Lori Loughlin expected to turn herself in today, charged in that nationwide college admissions scam. Felicity Huffman also charged. FBI agents say that the stars are among 33 parents who allegedly paid millions of dollars to get their kids into elite colleges and universities. And Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes are still flying in the U.S. despite being banned from most international airspace. That model crashed in Ethiopia over the weekend, the second deadly crash in months. A growing number of U.S. lawmakers are calling for federal regulators to ground those planes. but the FAA says there's no basis for doing so. And today, Paul Manafort being sentenced again in D.C. President Trump's former campaign chairman facing up to a decade behind bars on conspiracy charges. He, of course, pleaded guilty but broke a plea deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Last week, Manafort got nearly 4 years for tax and bank fraud. Well, now to a Fox News alert for you. A Georgia woman is charged, accused of supporting ISIS by helping spread kill lists targeting U.S. soldiers and members of the State Department. The Justice Department says that Kim Ung-bo recruited extremists and encouraged them to kill thousands of Americans. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. And the U.S. and the Taliban drafting a deal following 2 weeks of talks. President Trump's top envoy to Afghanistan confirming that the U.S. and the terror group have reached an agreement on counterterrorism and troop withdrawal. And negotiations for a ceasefire and talks with the Afghan government, those are still in the works. President Trump has vowed to withdraw the 14,000 U.S. troops from the 18-year-long war. 18 years, man. Well, an illegal immigrant ICE tried to detain 9 times is charged with murder. Police in California say that 2 suspects stalked Bambi Larson before stabbing her to death. The El Salvador national had known gang ties and faced previous drug and burglary charges. He was released from jail twice just months before the murder. And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accuses the CEO of Wells Fargo of financing the caging of immigrant children. The bank executive adamantly denying those claims during this hearing on Capitol Hill. Listen to this.
Why was the bank involved in the caging of children and financing the caging of children to begin with?
I don't know how to answer that question because we weren't.
You were financing and involved in debt financing of CoreCivic and Geo Group, correct?
For a period of time, we were involved in financing one of the firms. We're not anymore. We weren't directly involved in that.
Well, the White House has repeatedly said the images showing migrant children in fenced-off detention rooms were taken during the Obama administration. Well, the situation at our southern border, it is now growing more urgent. Border agents in Yuma, Arizona, arresting nearly 750 illegal immigrants last weekend alone. But the Border Patrol chief under the Obama administration is sounding the alarm on a serious safety risk for migrant children that no one's talking about. Mark Morgan joins me now live. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very important issue.
You bet, Heather.
Let's take a look at these numbers as we begin our conversation. A 230% increase in family unit apprehensions at the Yuma sector. 36% increase in unaccompanied immigrant children apprehensions. Why aren't we hearing more about this? And, how significant is this problem and issue?
Well, Heather, first of all, thanks for shedding light on this issue because it is important. But the experts, they're not surprised, and they've been standing along with Congress for a while, and it's continuing to be ignored. Think about this. So what we have is broken asylum laws and judicial activism like the Flores case that just picks, hey, 20 days, and you have to let these individuals, family units and kids in the United States. What do you think that's doing to the cartels, the coyotes, and those individuals who want to come to the United States? Well, they know that their ticket into this country is simple and clear. Grab a kid, enter illegally, and you're allowed into the United States. Kids are being exploited every day, and it's just growing.
Compare the issue now versus, how big was the issue when you were there as part of the Obama administration, when you take a look at the numbers?
Well, if you look, so the change in demographics from being mainly Mexican adults to family units and kids started about 2014. But when I was there in 2016, we saw an increase in both family units and unaccompanied minors, Heather. I was calling it a crisis then. Congress on both sides of the House was calling it a crisis then. And it's only exponentially gotten worse. And the exploitation of kids is continuing to skyrocket as well. We have kids, information is coming to us that kids are actually coming across the border illegally, then they're sending them back to Mexico, aligning them up with another fake guardian to only come back again illegally. It's horrible. We've got to fix this.
You mentioned both sides of the aisle said that it was an emergency before. You hear these stories, you hear experts like you know what you're talking about, but then you have Democrats, some of those who did publicly say it was an emergency. Chuck Schumer being one of them, now saying it's not and just ignoring what the experts are saying. What are they doing and why?
So that's key, and I'm glad you said that. They're absolutely how they're dismissing the experts. And these same politicians that are dismissing the facts and the experts, they're also the same ones in 2006 that voted for the Secure Fence Act, which led to 654 miles of wall being built. And now they're calling it immoral, and they're still saying it's ineffective. So from a law enforcement perspective, knowing what I know and knowing what they said in the past, only one thing comes, and this is about their political ideology and protecting their political party rather than protecting this country, and it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I mean, if that was your child or if that was a child in your family, some of these Democrats, maybe they would think differently. Whole nother issue. Rape trees, they try to say that that's not a very real thing. It is a very real thing. We don't hear a lot about that either. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Let's hope something gets done about that. Please come back.
Thank you.
The time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. Elizabeth Warren walking a slippery slope.
The space around companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google is now referred to by venture capitalists as the kill zone.
Yeah, the 2020 presidential candidate blasting big tech firms that she took donations from, while our next guest says that she can't have it both ways, and where feeding the birds could soon land you behind bars. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. To Ohio now, where they get the green light to cut off funding for Planned Parenthood. A federal appeals court upholding an Ohio law barring state funding for health care providers that offer abortions. Planned Parenthood stands to lose $1.5 million from the state health department. Planned Parenthood is considering its next legal steps. And CNN hit with a whopping $275 million lawsuit. The attorneys for Covington Catholic student Nick Sandman accusing the network of vicious attacks on the 16-year-old seen in this viral video.
What CNN's tagline is facts first, and what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second. They did this without any reasonable investigation. They took something straight off Twitter that had been, in essence, manipulated so that it told one story, and they reported it as the truth.
Twitter manipulating something? Well, Sandman's attorneys are also suing the Washington Post for $250 million over the paper's coverage of the events at the March for Life rally in January in D.C. Well, the cameras will be on actor Jussie Smollett when he faces 16 felony charges in court tomorrow. A judge ruling to allow Empire Star's arraignment to be filmed in Chicago. Well, Smollett's legal team welcoming that decision, saying that they want the public to see what they call a lack of evidence. Smollett is accused, of course, of staging a hate crime and lying to police about it. Well, the time now is almost 15 minutes until the top of the hour. A teenager suspended for posting Bible verses around school. And now she's firing back after being accused of targeting a club she didn't even know existed. And you remember this debate that divided the internet?
So there's a restaurant in Philadelphia that's serving up cheesesteaks, but they've replaced the bread with pound cake. So is it a dessert or is it dinner? So many questions.
I was saying, oh no, but look, it is the moment of truth. We are going to find out if it's dinner or dessert up next.
Order!
Well, chaos in the UK after Parliament blocks Theresa May's Brexit deal for a second time. Parliament will vote again today, deciding whether the UK will leave without a deal or say goodbye at a later date. Benjamin Hall joins us now live in London with more. Good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning, Heather. And this was another heavy defeat for Theresa May and her idea of Brexit. And this one does really have big implications for the UK, but also for the US and the future relationship between the two countries. Today, Parliament will vote on what comes next. May's deal suffered a loss of 149 votes last night, a major rejection of her idea of the relationship moving forward. After the defeat, May put forward the remaining options.
Does it want to hold a second referendum? Does it want to leave with a deal, but not this deal? These are unenviable choices. But thanks to the decision that the House has made this evening, they are choices that must now be faced.
The country and Parliament are now totally divided. The two options ahead on which they will now vote are either a short delay of Brexit, trying to seek another deal, or a no-deal Brexit. And that means a clean break in just 16 days with no deals in place, which some say would be an economic disaster, but which others are cheering. Supporters of a no-deal Brexit say it would bring the US and the UK closer together, allowing a wide-ranging free trade deal between the two countries, which could allow low-tariff access to the British market to US liquid natural gas, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and so much more. At the moment, access to the UK market is dictated by EU laws. A no-deal Brexit would mean the UK could do a direct deal with the US. President Trump has championed that, so have hard-deal Brexiteers. Today will be the vote where we see what happens next. Heather?
All right, Benjamin Hall, we will see. Thank you. Countdown is on. Well, let's talk about this big story happening here. Dozens facing charges in what prosecutors now call the largest college cheating scam ever prosecuted by the DOJ. Among those charged are actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, the television stars, accused of paying their kids' way into elite colleges. Here now to weigh in is the president of District Media Group, Beverly Hallberg. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
So, we mentioned there in the intro, this is the largest college cheating scam ever prosecuted. Not necessarily the first ever, maybe just the first caught. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, we're still going to be learning more, but definitely when the news broke yesterday, a lot of people were commenting on this from a variety of different angles. I think one of the things to point out on this is that these children of many Hollywood wealthy elite and also wealthy business owners are taking away spots that are deserved by other students. You even had, it goes so far as one child was claiming that he was disabled so that he could have help when he was taking an admissions test. So we are talking about when money speaks. In this, money is king when it came to the fraud that went on. And my hope is that we're hearing so far is that universities and colleges were not involved in this. We're talking about a few bad actors.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible that, all the schools, or at least somebody at a very high level, didn't know this was going on. When you talk about, the students getting in on the case that they played certain sports that they never played, and some of the high schools they came from never even had those sports. It's crazy.
Yeah, you had one individual, one student who said that she was there because of crew, yet she's never played crew in her life. So my question then is, and you did have USC, University of Southern California, and Yale came out and said they were victims of this as well. But we do need to get to the bottom of that, because when you talk about how many families were involved in this is a widespread scandal among different schools. And so we do need some information to make sure that universities and colleges aren't being bribed by the money as well.
You talk about the students not being aware of it. Some of the social media posts and some of those students coming back to bite them. Listen to Olivia Jade. This was Lori Loughlin's daughter, what she had to say.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I do want the experience of game days, partying. I don't really care about school.
Ouch. She didn't care about the school, but her mom and dad apparently did enough to pay to get her in.
A pretty penny to get her in as well. They spent a decent amount of money. And so I also am not surprised to hear that this is what their daughter has said in the past, because I think if you know that your parents are bribing school officials to get you in, I don't think honesty and taking this seriously matters to those young people. So I wonder about these kids whose parents have been proven to be cheating the system. What does that do to them moving forward in life? So I think all around it's a sad story.
Spending $500,000. It is really insane. All right, we'll see what happens on this. Of course, they're becoming the faces of it, those two families, Huffman and Lori Loughlin, I should say, but 33 families involved so far. So we'll see where it goes. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
So is it dessert or dinner? The pound cake cheese steak that divided the internet is here. Joe's Steaks and Soda Shop brought these here from Philadelphia so we could get to the bottom of it. So the whole team is here because everyone wants to figure out what it is.
I'm so curious if this is good or not.
Who's taking a bite first?
What are we getting to the bottom?
What it is,
I think we're just eating it.
Yeah, pound cake in the place of bread, and then the cheese steak in between.
And this all came about because
I think this is for you, Jillian, because I don't think it has
the pound cake
on it.
right here. The reason we're doing this is because this concoction went viral on social media. Heather, you
I think this is yours.
And
I'm gonna eat this.
Joe's Steak
Yes.
and Soda Shop is turning 70 years old this week. That's the reason.
Oh, so for their 70-year birthday,
That's right.
they decided to make this. So
they've been doing every month. So I was talking to them a couple minutes ago. Every month for the last, I believe it was 10
we need
months.
a fork.
They have
knife and fork.
Sorry, they have been creating different
Did you bite into it?
concoctions. So one of them involved Philadelphia tasty cakes with cheesesteak. They've been coming up with different things. So this happens to be the latest that they've come up with, and this is the pound cake from Stock's Bakery, which is a well-known in Philadelphia.
You definitely get the salty and the sweet.
Only available until the end of March. So rush over if you can.
2 days while we're good.
Because it's March's creation.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Not bad, Joe's.
No, very good.
Yeah, it's good.
So dinner and dessert in one serving. All right.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Cheers.
I want to bite into it.
Thanks, Joe.
Welcome back. An Ohio student suspended for posting Bible verses in her high school after LGBT flags were displayed in hallways. The student says that she was punished, accused of targeting the school's Gay Straight Alliance Club. She says she didn't even know that club existed.
When I got sent to the office, he was talking to me and he said, "Why did you put these up here?" And I said, "Because I wanted to spread the word of God."
Well, the school's principal says she violated the code of conduct because she didn't get permission to post the Bible verses. Well, you may need to think twice before feeding birds in New York City. Yep, the Parks Department wants to outlaw feeding birds and squirrels, saying that it will help clean up parks. Critics call it cruel, though. If passed, violators could get anywhere from a $50 fine to a night behind bars. Tough. Well, now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we begin, as always, with the good. A man races past firefighters, risking his own life to save his family dog from his burning home in California. The man fights through the flames and the heavy smoke, emerging minutes later with his dog, Cabana. Both have suffered some minor injuries. They are expected to be okay. Good thing. Now the bad. Talk about messing with the wrong guy. Former bounty hunter catches suspected package thieves at his home in Las Vegas.
Trying to steal something? No. Get here. Come here.
Alex Mazzola pulling a gun on those suspects as they leave his home. Police arrested them about an hour later, finding several stolen packages in their stolen getaway car. And finally, the ugly. A flight forced to make a U-turn after a mother forgets her baby at the airport.
You are returning back to the gate?
أقول لك معنا one passenger. She left her baby in the terminal.
How does that happen? The pilot turning the Malaysia-bound flight back to a Saudi Arabia airport where the mother and child were reunited. Lucky he turned around. What in the world? Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Bye-bye.